Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm not used to filming this early in the morning, but we got back from a long weekend of camping and I have not yet recovered from that, so I'm just trying to get caught up as much as I can. And so I figured I would film this video so I can at least hopefully stay on track with my upload schedule. So I'm going to talk about my August favorites / recap. And there's significantly fewer things than there was last month, so if you watched last month's video and you were like, oh my god, why did you watch so many movies? That's not going to be happening this month. So unfortunately, once again, I don't have a favorite book or book that I finished this month. I'm almost done with Fragments of Light. I only have a few chapters left, I think, but since I haven't finished it, I don't want to review it yet, because that wouldn't make any sense. I thought about bringing it with me, but I also didn't want to, have a really bulky book with me, so hopefully I'll have it finished by next month's favorites, knock on wood. Let's do the movies category. One of the movies we watched in August was The Hateful Eight, and this is a Quentin Tarantino movie, and to be honest, it's probably my least favorite Tarantino movie that I have ever seen. I like his movies. If you've never seen any of his movies, he has a bajillion out there, and they tend to be very a lot of them are really violent, and, some of them can be pretty brutal, especially, the newer ones, but one thing he really does well is dialogue, and has really snappy, quirky dialogue and interesting characters, but this movie just didn't meet my expectations whatsoever. The Hateful Eight is about a group of people, it's set in the Old West, and they're trapped in a snowstorm in a what's it called, wagon train stop kind of thing? I don't really know the word for it. They basically have to survive what's going on, and it's not so much the storm that they're surviving, it's each other, because one person is a fugitive that's being taken to be hung, and then, there's different characters that are somehow involved, and just kind of, I don't know, it really is sort of about them surviving the night, but it's not a typical survival story, so I don't really want to call it that. To be honest, the plot fell through for me a lot and ended up being really, really boring. And it did have the, quirky Tarantino dialogue that did keep things kind of interesting, but for the most part, I was just really bored with the movie and I just didn't care about these people, and it was just a lot of really long, drawn-out scenes of them talking to each other, and sometimes what they're talking about isn't really that important. And yeah, I just got sick of it, so I ended up giving it, I gave it 3 stars ultimately, because it was just super average and really honestly kind of forgettable, so I was just very disappointed by this movie. The next one, we didn't even intend to do this, but it was The Ridiculous Six. The name itself is definitely a play off of The Hateful Eight, but the plots aren't the same at all, and this is a really ridiculous Adam Sandler comedy about a group of brothers who are all half-brothers, because there's different races and stuff, and they basically have to rescue their father from robber, kidnapper, someone. I don't care. It doesn't really matter. I ended up giving this movie 2.5 stars. I like Adam Sandler movies, particularly older ones, but this movie was basically humor meant for a 15-year-old boy. Lots of poop jokes and fart jokes and some racist jokes. I don't know, it wasn't a great movie. I figured it would be ridiculous and stupid because even the previews seem ridiculous and stupid, and ridiculous is in the fucking name. So what exactly can you expect from it? I will admit, there was at least one twist ending, sort of, that I didn't quite see coming, so I'll give you that much, and it is kind of fun to see these ensemble casts, I think they're called, because Adam Sandler always does all these movies with, these particular group of people, but there's also a few, not cameo appearances, but a few appearances by actors and entertainers that I didn't quite expect. I'll give it that much, but yeah, this was, lowbrow humor. So it wasn't, a great movie, but if you're looking for a dumb laugh, then have at it. The next category is TV shows, and I only have 2. Yeah, this was kind of a slow month in terms of favorites. The first one I want to talk about is Stranger Things. I finally got on the Stranger Things bandwagon. I know it started, when they start filming, 2015 or something like that, 2016. It's been out for a few years. There's 3 seasons currently, and I finished all of them in a relatively quick amount of time. I think I started watching them maybe in July but mostly in August, and there were definitely some days that I binged a couple episodes, but because there's only 3 seasons out, I tried to like restrain myself. I tend to hold back from watching like really hyped up shows and stuff because sometimes really hyped up things don't deserve hype whatsoever, but I really think Stranger Things deserves the hype. I'll just say it right out, I gave it 5 stars because I can't really think of anything that I really disliked about it enough to take stars away. Like anything that I, didn't like or had an issue with either fit the plot or didn't bother me enough to remember it. So if you haven't seen Stranger Things, I'll try to explain the plot a little bit. It's, I guess the first season I should explain, starts with a kidnapping or a disappearance of a young boy, and his friends have to try and find him, but there's also some government conspiracies going on and experiments, and they meet a young girl who has these crazy psychic powers, I guess you could say. She can like move things with her mind and do stuff like that. There's also another dimension. We find that there are creatures that live there, and it's sort of like, they call it the Upside Down, but it's really sort of like a dark version of our own world, and it's not really explained like what exactly it is, but that's perfectly fine. It's all part of the mystery. One of the things I really liked about it was I got serious Cthulhu vibes. If you are also a fan of H.P. Lovecraft, then you will probably like this because it's, it's creepy, and season 3 gets a little more scary and gory at times, but for the most part it's definitely like suspenseful and creepy, and there's otherworldly monsters, so it's not like the most horrific horror you've ever seen. And I think it's just a lot of fun to watch. And one of the things about watching a series that's been out for a while, especially when it deals with like young kids growing up over the course of X amount of years, is that I really got to see the progression very quickly from, these young innocent kids, and then something very real and scary happens to them, and they have to like figure out how to deal with it, and like nothing is as it seems anymore. And then towards season 3, or I guess the end of season 3, I'm not going to say any spoilers, but you basically just see how their relationships with each other and the world around them change just because they're getting older. And of course there is this like supernatural, otherworldly theme going on, so it's not exactly like realistic, the sorts of things that real kids would deal with, but it's sort of like a slightly twisted version of like growing up, I guess I should say. I don't really know what I'm trying to say here. I do know what I'm trying to say, I just can't say it because it's barely 7:18 in the morning. But it definitely made me feel very nostalgic and bittersweet by the end of season 3, because you watch these kids go from, like I said, innocent young kids, and then they go through these trials and tribulations together, and their relationships with each other start to change, and some of it's better, for some it's worse, and you just see these sort of tense moments where they realize that they're growing up and that things are going to be changing and that there's some inevitable changes that we all have to go through. So it was interesting to see this sort of supernatural twist on adolescence. I would definitely recommend it if you haven't watched it already. Of course, all 3 seasons are on Netflix, and I really hope there's going to be season 4 fairly soon because I'm definitely invested in the show, and I do plan to rewatch it at some point. Probably on Friday I'll start rewatching it. Let's be honest here. The second show I want to talk about is Archer, and this is an adult animated show about a secret agent and like a group of secret agents who kind of fight crime or have to do these, I keep smacking my freaking thing. They have to keep doing these different like crime related jobs, but they constantly fuck things up. Like I said, this is like an adult show, so there is a lot of swearing and adult situations, but it's comedy and it's really funny. And I've been watching this show for years, like on and off over the last who knows how many years. Since I was a teenager, I would say. And we recently started picking up at season 8, I think we're on, my husband and I. A lot of seasons take these like sort of different turns. You have like the regular series, and then there'll be like, I know they had like a Vice City version or something. The one we're watching now is called Dreamland, and it's supposed to be like one of the characters in a coma, and it's sort of set in like the 50s or something. I don't know. It's funny. If you like comedy and if you don't mind crude humor, then watch Archer. Alright, so let's talk about the miscellaneous category. So the first thing I want to talk about is, what do I call it? I don't know the exact brand of the particular item that I have, but it's basically a light alarm clock, or a sunrise alarm clock, I think they're sometimes called. And basically the idea is that it wakes you up using light that simulates the rising sun rather than a blaring alarm. I mean, I've heard about these a long time ago, but this was something that my husband wanted us to try because we have a very atypical sleep schedule, I would say. Since we have to get up at 4:30 every morning, we are always up before the sun is, and we're up before most people are that I know of. And because of that, we also have to go to bed by like 8 p.m. So we're usually getting ready for bed by around 7 and trying to go to sleep by like 8 or 8:30. Depending on the season, we are usually up before the sun rises and we're trying to sleep while the sun is still up. So it kind of messes with your circadian rhythm a little bit. And this particular light we have, I don't know if I can do a demonstration because it does use an app, and I don't have the app on my phone because I just haven't bothered to do it. What it does is when you set it for a certain time, say our usual wake up time is 4:30, so we want it to start getting bright by like 4:20, 4:25, and it starts with a very dim light and then gradually gets brighter and brighter and brighter until it seems like it's almost daylight in your room. And there's different like settings you can have, so it's like a cooler light or like a warmer one. And then once it hits 4:30, an alarm goes off. And there's different alarm settings. I think there is one that sounds like regular beeping, like an alarm clock, but there's also birds chirping is one that we've been using a lot. There's one that sounds like cows and cowbells, which is kind of interesting. There's one that sounds like the ocean and just like nature sounds, or what are they called? Those like metal singing bowls that people use to meditate with. So it has a lot of different noises that aren't just like an annoying fucking alarm clock. I like it. There's definitely a range of models you can get. The one that we have, I'll show you it in a minute. It was definitely a bit more expensive, but I know they have cheaper models that probably just use light and like one alarm clock sound. But this one is pretty high-tech. It wouldn't have been my particular first choice because I don't like spending a lot of money, but I am happy that we have it. And I think it is a lot nicer to wake up gradually. Some mornings the light wakes me up. Like I'll wake up and I see the very dim light and it's gradually getting brighter. So it feels like I'm waking up more calmly, more naturally, rather than startling awake to an alarm clock, which I do a lot, or I have done a lot. And there are other days when the light doesn't wake me up and like the sound of birds chirping is what will wake me up instead, and the light's already on. So it really just depends, but overall I like doing that. And I think trying to trick yourself with light is a very smart thing to do. So when we're trying to go to sleep, the sun is usually still up. So what we'll do is close all the curtains in the house, especially, in our bedroom. We have black curtains, if you can see this. So it really makes everything super, super dark. So that kind of tricks our brain into thinking that the sun is setting, even though it's usually really bright outside and people are still out doing things, but whatever. And then it is nice to have light first thing in the morning, and that's something else they recommend. Even if you don't use a light sunrise alarm clock, when you wake up in the morning, you should open the curtains and try to get as much natural sunlight in your room or in your home as possible, because then it tells your brain that it's morning time and it's time to wake up. So let me see if I can show you anything that this alarm clock will do. I don't know how much I can do with it, but this is what it looks like. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. I didn't know it does the little... Because I can't see those bands that are going up and down, those bands of light. I can't see that on the actual thing, so maybe that's just my camera. But I think this is actually just like the night light setting. So if you're walking around at night or in the middle of the night, you can tap it and it will turn on like that. Oh, here we go. So this is basically what it does. You get the idea, right? Yeah, there we go. So that's basically what it does. It gets brighter, and like I said, I do like using it. The only thing I don't like about it, I guess, was how much it costs, but that's not really a big deal. I haven't really played around with it that much, but I would probably give this one 4.5 stars. And I only take that half star away because I'm a cheap bitch and I don't like buying expensive things. But as I said, there are other models that are much cheaper. The last thing on my miscellaneous list is actually in-town campground. So like I said in the beginning of this video, we actually went camping this weekend in Northern California, and we stayed at In-Town Campground, which is in Nevada City, California, and that's up near Sacramento. The entire trip was meant to be a memorial camping trip for David's aunt who died earlier this year, but it was actually just a really nice way to see the relatives. I mean, there were a few moments that were like sad and sentimental, of course, because we were there to honor her memory, but for the most part, it was just like a lot of fun seeing all of these relatives. There was at least 20 or 30 people that came from David's extended family. Many of them I had already met previously but haven't seen in several years, or some of them I was meeting for the very first time. And there were a lot of people there that David hadn't seen in many years either. So it was really nice to just get the big family together, and the drive out there took about 9 hours, which was pretty tiring, and I'm going to talk more about that in like a different video, like the whole trip and everything. But the campground itself was really nice. And if you're the kind of person who likes dirt camping, just going out into the wilderness and pitching a tent somewhere and just kind of being completely away from civilization, then this is not the campground for you because it was like really nice. And so they had different options. Of course, you can bring a regular tent and just pitch a camping spot, or reserve a camping spot, I should say. They also have spots for RVs, and you can have like your RV hooked up to stuff. And they also have glamping tents, which are basically wooden structures that have doors, and they have like their own little patios, and they have a bed and some furniture in there. And that's what we did because we really wanted to take a nice vacation and just not dirt camp for once. We've done plenty of that and I do enjoy it, but sometimes you just want to splurge a little bit, do something a little bit extra. And so we stayed there, and of course we did bring Hogan, and they are dog friendly, which is nice. And as far as I know, they didn't have any breed restrictions. There was just like I think it was like a $20 fee per night if you had a dog. So it was really nice that they let us bring him, and they had, you know, plenty of amenities there. Oh my gosh, they have a little store there, so you could, you know, buy things like whether you needed some ice or water or beer or some snacks, or if you wanted a souvenir, they had that. They also had a pool, and they had a communal kitchen, so you could actually like cook meals, not on a fire necessarily. And they had these really nice showers that heated up super fast, and bathrooms with like locks on them, like keypad locks, so like no random people could sneak into the campsite and like use the bathrooms or whatever. Overall, it was a really cool place. I couldn't quite decide if I wanted to give it 4 or 4.5 stars. The only thing that I didn't really like was, I guess it felt a little inauthentic. I mean, my idea of camping has always been like going out into the wilderness somewhere and just setting up a tent and building a fire and just cooking off of that, or like a grill or whatever. And it was a little bit crowded, I guess I would say, and this wasn't even like a holiday weekend or anything. So I remember Saturday was definitely much more crowded, and if you like go outside your tent, there's just like everything is really close to each other, so you kind of would be, you know, sharing a space with the people camping next to you. And because our party was so big, most of us were taking up like a lot of the spots like all right next to each other. But there were some instances where, you know, a couple cabins down, there was someone who we didn't know, and it wasn't really like a problem, but it just felt like really close together. And that's not my ideal camping situation, but it wasn't like annoying. And of course there were other people around, so sometimes at night it could be really loud, but most of the reason it was loud was because of our party. So if you're looking for like a nice place to go camping and you happen to be in Northern California, then check out In Town Campground in Nevada City. Alright, that is all the stuff I have for you guys this month. I'm so tired. I'm sorry, I've been trying to like keep my energy up and like get my thoughts together, but I'm still trying to get back into the regular swing of things. Hopefully I'll be able to edit this video this weekend and have it published, uploaded when it's supposed to be. It's just been very hard getting back into the swing of things, and yeah, I'm gonna stop complaining about that now. Alright, so if you'd like to keep up with me on my writing endeavors, I'll leave all my social media links below in the description, as well as a link to my debut self-published novel, Blood of Fire. So until next time, see ya!